The 2022 Women's World Tour calendar is set to play host to the most exciting race of the year, the Tour De France Femmes Avec Zwift, which will be running from July 24th all the way to the 31st. The 8-day race is set to begin on the Champs-Élysées in Paris in conjunction with the last stage of the men's Tour de France, and the ASO have announced these teams as the ones to be taking part. The event has become the most lucrative race on the Women's World Tour calendar, with a combined prize pot of €250,000, with 50,000 of those going to the winner. Now, onto some of those key stats. The Tour de France Femmes will cover 1,029 kilometres. There'll be back-to-back mountain stages, there'll be 2 stages for the puncheurs, there will also be a stage full of gravel sectors, and there's also 4 sprint stages which could either go to the bunch or a breakaway. Stage 1 is by all accounts a city centre circuit race, which will be starting at the Eiffel Tower, arguably the only place prestigious enough for such a race to commence. Then they'll be taking on 12 laps of the 6.8 kilometre course and will likely end up in a bunch sprint down the iconic cobbles of the Champs-Élysées. That being said, when Le Course finished here back in 2015, Anna van der Breggen managed to hold off the bunch with an audacious solo attack from 1 kilometre out. No matter how it ends, we are guaranteed some excitement, and of course, we'll get to see our first rider adorned in yellow. Day 2 sees the peloton head east of the capital and race through the Brie region to the gates of Champagne. But who will it be that gets to pop a bottle of bubbly at the end? Well, with a fairly flat parcours and a punch up towards the end, it's likely going to be a classic sprinter that's going to take the gold here. It's going to be important for the peloton to control the breakaway, because if they let them slip too far out of their grasp, they might lose touch of them in the last 10 kilometres. Stage 3 starts in Reims and then rolls through the world-famous Champagne vineyards. The route then starts to undulate a little more as we get onto the final circuit, and could force some breaks in the peloton and aid the breakaway. Now, if the breakaway can stay organised, they could push all the way to the finish line, and that's where we could see some early time gaps form. Stage 4 brings with it some added excitement in the form of chalk roads. Now, it's likely that these are going to wreak a little havoc in the bunch and force some splits. This is also paired with a hilly second half of the stage, so anyone who was riding well yesterday will definitely need to double down on their gains and make sure they don't drop out of contention. And those that have potentially been struggling up till now will need to make sure that they perform well today, again, so they don't fall out of contention. This may not be the Queen stage, but with 12.9 kilometres of gravel sectors combined, it sure is going to be a tough old day in the saddle. Stage 5 has been classified as a flat day. However, there are still 3 climbs on the cards, and it's also the longest stage of the race, so there won't be any time for relaxation. The climbs aren't super long or steep, so the peloton should navigate them fairly well. There's no doubt that this will be a tough day in the saddle, but if the sprint teams can control things, we should be in for an exciting fast finish. The climbs on stage 6 are sure to cement our GC favourites. There's 4 noted on the route map, but with an overall undulating profile, it's not going to be an easy day on the legs as we draw into the latter stages of the race. The day kicks off with a 4-kilometre climb, a great place for the breakaway to launch their attack. The next climbs come about 40 kilometres after the first, with one final lump to get over before the descent down towards the finish line. It's really hard to see how this one's going to play out, because we could see the breakaway stick it to the peloton and make it all the way to the finish. We could also see a puncher who's kept their powder dry make an audacious solo attack, or we could even see the peloton keep things in control and see a fast finish. There's only one way to find out how that's going to go, and we've just got to wait and see. Stage 7 marks the first mountain stage of the race and will go over 3 of the toughest passes in Vosges. After a gentle start to the day, the GC teams will be tasked with 3 consecutive climbs, with the final one taking them up towards the ridge, and then they follow the ridgeline along to the finish. At this point, we should have a really clear set of GC favourites and have a strong idea of who's going to be walking away with yellow. The final showdown will happen here on stage 8 with a final ascent up La Super Planche del Belleville. With the right legs and strategy, we could see anyone in the top 10 attack on any of the 3 climbs of the day, and if they can make it stick, not only could they take the stage win, but the overall general classification too. All we can know from this far out is that we can expect to see fireworks on the final ascent of the race. Annemiek van Vleuten may be turning 40 later this year, but there is absolutely no doubt that she'll be one of the hottest favourites to win the race. With 15 years of pro racing in her legs, she is an authority in the peloton and obviously brings a wealth of experience along with her. Her 2019 World Championships victory after a 105km solo breakaway cannot be forgotten and is a perfect example of her power and capabilities. She's won pretty much everything, and there is absolutely no doubt that she'll want a Tour de France victory on her palmarès. Another Dutch rider who we cannot forget is, of course, Marianne Vos, one of the undisputed best riders in the world. Her capabilities span disciplines, and there doesn't really seem to be a limit to what she can achieve. I think it's fair to say we can see some sprint victories out of her, and I think she'll also have her eye on the overall GC2. Last of the Dutch riders I'll be mentioning is Demi Vollering, the so-called protege to Anna van der Breggen, who also happens to be her DS. Vollering has won stage races such as the Women's Tour and one-day races like Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It's unclear who we're going to see take on that leadership role at SD Works, but I think it's fair to say that we could see Demi Vollering up there in the sprints. We'll turn our attention to the Italians now, and first up we have reigning world champion Elisa Balsamo. Now, she will have just come off of 2 hard weeks racing at the Giro Donne, but if the team can support her, I think we could expect to see maybe a stage win or at least a strong GC finish from her. Next up we have Elisa Longo-Borghini, and after an incredible win at Paris-Roubaix Femmes, I think it's fair to say we could see her marking up stage 4 in her route book, and we might see an incredible solo victory. Next up from Poland we have Kasia Niewiadoma. Recently she's not had too much luck securing wins, but we do see her as a real race protagonist as she dishes out attack after attack. She'll no doubt animate the race and could be one to watch when things get steep. From Denmark we have Cecile Uttrup Ludwig, who at the moment is still searching for that really big win. It's likely she'll be bringing the fight to the leaders when things get hilly and will be hungry for that stage win at the very least. Last up from South Africa we have Ashley Moolman-Pasio, and as this is her last year as a professional, she'll be looking to go out on a high. She's an absolute powerhouse and could end up as the protected rider on the SD Works squad. She can perform well in the mountains, and taking on that final stage could be the perfect way to say farewell to her professional career. So on to predictions, and uncontroversially, I think my bet for yellow is going to be on Annemiek van Vleuten walking away with yellow, and I think she's also going to take the polka dot jersey too. On to green, and I think that's got Marianne Vos written all over it, and on to white, I think that's going to go to Demi Vollering, so it could be a Dutch wipeout. But do let me know who you think is going to be walking away with the jerseys, and of course what you think of the route itself. If you enjoyed the video, drop it a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and I'll see you again very soon. So if you look at my predictions, we've got a bit of a Dutch wipeout on our hands. Oh, so right, we're really close now. Based on my predictions, it's going to be a bit of a Dutch wipeout. And based on my predictions, I think we're going to have a bit of a Dutch wipeout on our hands.